We've seen some amazing things, but that, my friends, is something we've never seen.
Brandon Cruz wants advice.
Brandon Cruz wants advice.
Brandon wants advice.
Brandon Cruz wants advice. You just locked yourself into the playoffs.
Nice. Got it.
Talk with old Brandon Cruz wants advice.
Completely speechless, to say the least.
Man, I am honestly so baffled by that decision. Brandon Cruz wants advice. It's Brandon wants advice.
Green flag in the air. Brandon Cruz wants advice to the front.
It's a Brandon Cruz daily fantasy podcast where I go and look at low-owned plays and strategies specifically designed for GPPs. This show for people who are already informed in daily fantasy sports and how these contests operate. If you have any questions related to NASCAR that isn't a stupid question, feel free to send them my way at BrandonCruzDFS. Most importantly, take everything you hear with a grain of salt and use your best judgment when making entries. Additionally, if you have a gambling addiction, that's not my problem. Check your sense of feelings at the door. This is not a beginner's podcast. I'm going to put that out right now. I am not here to baby you. I'm not here to hold your hand and go through the wonder that is Talladega and the DFS gods that hang above us here. I'm going to dive deep down into Talladega strategy of how I think I'm going to approach it, how I'm going to look at it. I think I got to talk differently in this podcast. If you want my views on lineup construction, on how ownership usually pans out or whatnot, I have other videos on this channel. They all have the title card on there. Either look at the Daytona videos or I have a Talladega construction video from about a year ago that still holds my main approach to these. Listen to those. If you want to know how I approach these. I mean, I'm going to assume everybody's competent who's listening to this, and you're already looking at, play guys from the back. You got to play guys with good place differential, things of that nature. I'm assuming everybody's on board on that idea. First and foremost, before we get into it, go to racefortheprize.com to get the fancy NASCAR spreadsheet that I am using and that you should be using as well. I use it to make my lineups. I use the optimizer that Pierce has in that to work on my lineups. I run lineups that I make through that. I also hand make lineups as well. It's a combination of things on how I make lineups, and for Talladega and Daytona, I tend to hit these really hard. I try and max enter, or at least enter more lineups than I normally do. I'll probably throw 20 lineups into the $1, maybe 10 into the 3. I haven't made all lineups yet. I'm still trying to decide how many I want in the 8, how many I want in the $20 contest this weekend for Cup. So I'm still trying to figure out what way I want to break up my bankroll, but I'm going to enter a lot of lineups, more than I normally do in a lot of contests. So yeah, go to Race for the Prize to get the fancy NASCAR spreadsheet that I use. You can find pricing and everything if you go to that link, racefortheprize.com. Looking at this Xfinity Series race here, I have to look at it in a sense of where I would go making lineup construction or making lineups and where other people are going to go. I'm going to assume that most people, yes, if you're playing the play guys from the back, you have to determine where your cutoff line is. If you're not playing any of the forerunners, any of the guys in the top half of the field or whatever, what is your back half starting at? Are you playing 20th on back, so the back half of the field? Are you starting that line at 24th, so you're playing 24th back? Let me get a drink. I just recorded my tavern video and I didn't get a drink through that. Anyway, so what do you cut it off at? What is play guys from the back? And what is play guys from the front? Like when you break, I normally do it in, like, if you're playing guys who start at different starting positions. So I usually break, 40th through 30th as one group. And in this case, it's 39th to 30th. And then the next group will be 29th to 20th, and then 19th to 10th, and then 9th to 1st. And so how many guys are you willing to take from each of those groups? Because just like the Cup Series, we have seen that it's not always everybody's from the back half of the field. Everybody's from the back. It's a combination of using guys in the front of the field who survive the mayhem, who either lead laps or just stay up in front, and then it's using people who get place differential just because they aren't involved in wrecks and who started in the back. So now that that's out of the way, I'm looking at this Xfinity Series race. Looking at this Xfinity Series race, where do I think the ownership goes? Obviously, it's going to go to the back. A lot of the guys in the back are going to carry ownership. Now, who is that? As I said in my tavern video this week, the idea of play guys from the back doesn't matter on the driver. And I'm going to go in more detail here than I do in the Cup Series video just because I don't have enough time to do it. But when you look at play guys from the back, I'm going to use this Xfinity Series race as an example. So looking at 30th through 39th, Colin Garrett, Josh Jackson, Matt Mills, Jeff Green, Mason Massey, AJ Allmendinger, Timmy Hill, Tommy Joe Martins, Snyder, and Fitchup. They pretty much all have the same floor. John Jackson may be the worst of these 9 cars, but everybody else should run the race. They all have a chance to finish inside the top 10, and they all have a chance to wreck. All these guys are on an even playing field in my mind at these plate tracks, and so when I say play guys from the back, I'm playing positions. I don't necessarily play whatever driver is on those positions. Whereas what I've seen by looking at ownership, by watching the live races, which is another reason why I enjoy watching my DraftKings score. I mean, one, I'm a gambler, but two, another reason why I like watching the DraftKings score in Talladega and Daytona is to see what lineup is currently first. Who the drivers are, what ownership percentages they have. It's an easy thing for me to just look through. I don't have to upload the CSV or whatever and do a Google sheet and mess around with that. I can just look at it as it changes each lap. Looking at the back half of the field here, like I said, all these guys are on an even playing field. The people who will most likely gain a lot of ownership will be Matt Snyder, Tommy Joe Martins, and AJ Allmendinger. Those should be the 3 highest owned because people just tend to play the names in the back. They don't play the positions like I do. They don't play everybody on even playing field. They're like, oh, AJ Allmendinger's starting 31st. He'll do great. I mean, AJ Allmendinger is going to do awesome. Well, what they don't look at is, Timmy Hill starting 33rd. I understand that he had the last full steel body car at Daytona last year in the summer race. But let me see, in the Daytona Fall race, where is that? Where he finished 21st, but he was up in the front when he got in that wreck. I mean, he was running very well. He finished 3rd at Daytona this year in the Daytona race. He finished 3rd there. At Dega, yeah, sure, he's finished 29th and 27th and 17th. Those are his last 3 races here at Talladega, but that was when MBM Motorsports really couldn't afford to push the issue. They couldn't afford to keep racing up front. His last couple races on the plate track shows me that, hey, Timmy Hill, he knows what he's doing. They got a good car there. All they got to do is just avoid wrecks, which is what everybody else does. So Timmy Hill and AJ Allmendinger are on the exact same playing field for me. So and I can make that argument with Chad Fitchup. I could make that argument with Jeff Green. I mean, Jeff Green's a must-play. I mean, just like Colin Garrett last week at Homestead, I mean, Jeff Green should be in every one of my lineups, along with Colin Garrett. Like, there's no reason to not play these guys other than you just don't want to play them or you want to make different pivots other places. So I guess I'll throw that in because everybody's going to be like, well, Jeff Green sponsor, you got to play Jeff Green. So Jeff Green, AJ Allmendinger, Tommy Joe Martins, and Matt Snyder will most likely be the highest owned in the back half of this field. So you can play around with ownership. You can say if you want to have Tommy Joe Martins and Matt Snyder, and then you want Matt Mills, for example, you might want to take a dart throw on him, and that's all it is dart throws. Whenever I say, oh, you got to play the low ownership, the low owned guy at these super speedways, you just need one low guy to have a different lineup. You don't need to just fade all the chalk. You don't need to throw all that out. You just need to play somebody who isn't as high owned as other people. Like, I guarantee you most lineups will have AJ Allmendinger, probably Jeff Green, probably Tommy Joe Martins. If they're playing guys from the back, because salary isn't an issue at these tracks, and if it is an issue, you're just taking you're taking a different route than what I'm doing here. Looking at the field in total, that's why in my DFS Tavern video I said who do I think is going to carry the most amount of ownership, because you can make pivots off those guys, and in a field like this, to where everybody has an equal shot at winning the race, where almost everybody is sponsored, I believe. I haven't come across anybody who and even if they're not sponsored like the Bassett fellers, they're still going to run the race. I think, was it Caesar who doesn't have a sponsorship right now? Or when I checked on Wednesday, I'm recording this on Friday. I mean, everybody's going to have a sponsorship. So going through, I mean, Colin Garrett, Jeff Green, AJ Allmendinger, Tommy Joe Martin, Snyder, let's see, Riley Herburst, Brett Moffitt, Jeremy Clements, Brandon Brown, Justin Allgaier, Harrison Burton, probably Austin Cindric, Gregson, and Briscoe. Those will most likely be the guys who carry a lot of ownership. So I would just make pivots around that. You could play those guys, just make pivots around them. Looking at optimal lineups for the Cup Series, it's the same thing here. I mean, you're going to see people who have started in third making the optimal lineup. You're going to see people who start 37th making the optimal lineup. And you're going to see combinations of people starting, 20th on back, making it with someone who's starting 15th forward or whatnot. I mean, I've had this conversation so many times. Now I just approach it in just a numbers game. That's how I look at it. It's all percentages. It's where do I think people are going to go, and how do I pivot off of them? Like Robbie Lyons. I love Robbie Lyons this weekend. One, because so he's not my friend. I would never call Robbie a friend, because I don't want somebody to be like, oh, Robbie, I heard you're friends with Brandon Cruz. I mean, that's not the case whatsoever. But he's a guy that I've raced with for a few years on iRacing. And this is years ago, too. This is about 2 or 3 years ago. But him and I raced together in a super speedway league where all we did was super speedway races, and we did it for years. And that league's still going on to this day. I'm just not a part of it anymore. But he sponsored it. I have him as a friend on Facebook. We've talked here and there, in a cordial manner and whatnot. But he's very good at the plate tracks. Look at the truck history. Look at his truck races where he wasn't just screwed over by something stupid. Robbie Lyons knows what he's doing at these plate tracks, okay? Starting 14th should scare everybody off of him. I don't see him carrying any ownership whatsoever. BJ McLeod, a guy who I think people are going to own just because he's been doing well recently, starting 16th. I don't think you need BJ McLeod this weekend. And if you, for example, this is, okay, so we can use this last week example as something that can apply to Talladega. So last week, everybody was on BJ McLeod. Everybody was on him. What did he end up scoring? Like 2 points, -2 points, something like that, because he quit, or not quit, but he pulled in the garage with like 30 laps left. I mean, he was the cheapest guy. You needed him if you were making certain lineups, but if you didn't play BJ McLeod, if you went Chad Fitchup or someone like that, I mean, you were leaps and bounds ahead of everybody who had BJ McLeod, because people already lost 20 points with him. If you faded him or didn't use him, that was a better play. That was an ownership play. And I think that's just how you got to approach the plate tracks. There's not a whole lot of, there's nothing secret about this. Like, nobody knows what's going to happen. But all you can do is weigh the odds in your favor. In the past, I have gone full on, like, I'm not playing anybody 20th forward or whatever. Those weeks have not been as profitable as the weeks that I've played people starting inside the top 12 in the Xfinity Series race, because typically people who start up in the top 10 usually finish up there. There might be 3 or 4 people who get wrecked, who get moved back, but usually, 5 guys who start inside the top, let's say 13, normally finish inside the top 13. So the Xfinity Series, unlike the Truck Series, unlike the Cup to an extent, you need plays who are starting inside the top 15. That's just how it is. Whether it's 2, whether it's 1, I don't think you need 3. I think the way to approach Xfinity plate tracks is 2 guys starting inside the top 15 with 4 guys place differential. Doesn't matter where they start. Just basically 2 15th forward and then 4 15th back. I think that's how I'm going to approach it, and then just pivoting off ownership. Let's see, what else can I add to here that I haven't said already in other videos or whatnot. Everybody, like I said, I like Robbie Lyons. I like Jesse Little. I have more, and this is when I say I like people, this isn't that they're a better play than, say, Anthony Alfredo or whatever. It's just that I like them as pivots. I like them as lower owned plays. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, AJ Allmendinger, if he doesn't mess it up, he should finish like 7th or something. But so, like, I mean, I like AJ Allmendinger. I think he'll do very well. But when I say, oh, I like Robbie Lyons, I think that's a guy I'm on that other people won't be. And so that's how I go. That's what I mean whenever I like these people or whatever. So I like Robbie Lyons. I like Jesse Little. Mike Harmon. It's not insane. Let me make an argument here. So Mike Harmon, yes, he's only making his 3rd or 2nd start this year, but these cars have ran very well this year. Him and what's the other dude's name in the 47? Hold on, let me look. That's the only shit. Where's the entry fee? Wait a minute. Oh, there's so many Dega pages. Oh, there's the entry. Let's see. Joe Nemechek. Joe Nemechek's in the 47 this week. Joe Nemechek should run the whole race. The Mike Harmon cars have been very well this year. They've been doing well on the intermediate tracks, on the short tracks. Usually, whenever they start and park those, that's when you would expect them to either really run in the back, really run conservative, or start and park these plate tracks. I don't think we're going to see that. I think the Mike Harmon cars are in play. I mean, I think everybody in this field is going to race it out, unless there's a mechanical issue, unless something just doesn't work right. Like with no practice, we might see another BJ McLeod car have issues, or a Mario Goslin car have an issue or something like that. But everybody should run the race. So if everybody's in play, that means 2 things. 1, you can go however you want. 2, we might see more crashes than normal at Talladega. It's not going to be as crazy as Daytona. It's not going to be wild, but with no practice, if the Cup guys are going to struggle, and I understand these guys use a different car, but if the Cup guys are going to struggle understanding what their car does in the draft, I mean, these guys are up a creek without a paddle. They got nothing to go off. You can't tell me that Cody Vanderwall is going to be great with no practice. There's no way, dude. Cody Take It Behind the Wall has been horrible at other tracks. I can't trust this man here at Talladega. That's wild. He's going to kill someone. I mean, and I tweeted to someone, I can't think of a better death than to be flung into a catch fence or into a grandstand. But, like, I mean, that's who I'd be afraid of. Cody Vanderwall, a guy that I don't believe in here. He's about the only no I have of just, I don't trust him. Maybe Greg Galding not being in the car. No, he raced in, never mind. He raced in 2019. Yeah, okay, never mind. Yeah, everybody's in play. Who would I be concerned about spinning out or not having a good time? Maybe John Jackson. He's another guy I'm kind of iffy on. But John Jackson, Matt Mills to an extent, Cody Vanderwall, Josh Williams, Joe Graff Jr., maybe Robbie Lyons because he hasn't been in a car in a while. But those are the guys I would worry about spinning out. So now that I got that out of the way, and now that you're already aware of how to approach these races, who do I think does well? Like, who can show up and run well at a plate track? So talking like this as like it's an intermediate track or a 1.5 mile or a mile long oval that isn't flat. Who can show up and be fast here? The junior motorsports cars. They should be the favorite along with Chase Briscoe, along with the 2 Fords of Cindric and Briscoe. These guys should be the ones who arrive to the track and have the best prepared cars. They have wind tunnel time. They have data to fall back on. They have, Junior Motorsports has Dale Earnhardt Jr. of all places, of all people, to help them set up a car, to let them know what the driver needs before they even get there. those guys should be fast. So past those guys, it'd be the Joe Gibbs trio or quadro, or what is it called when it's four, or whatever. The only issue I have with the Joe Gibbs drivers is that I think some of them might be going in over their head. I gotta go back to this. Let me see. So we have, oops. So like Riley Herbst, starting mid-pack, should be the safest out of the guys. We've seen Brennan Jones wreck before. We've seen him do very well before. Same with Harrison Burton. We've seen him wreck at the plate tracks. We've seen him do very well on the trucks. Yeah, it's a trio. Yeah, what was I talking about? Anyway, like those guys should run well. However, I would trust Junior Motorsports and the Fords before I go to these guys. That's just how it is. Following that, I guess I'm doing a team ranking here of who I think is going to be fastest. Following that would probably be the JD Motorsports cars. They've ran well this year. They've done well at Daytona in the past. And they should show up with stable cars. That's how it goes. Those would probably be the top 5 teams I would look at unloading speed. Anything past that, you're just getting guys who are starting in the rear. Oh, and the RSS Racing guys. So like Jeff Green, Matt Snyder, Ryan Sieg. Those guys would be on that list as well. Ryan Sieg, I can't imagine playing Sieg starting third. Or at this point, I guess I'll go down the grid. Because, I mean, like, what are you listening to me yammer on about? It's a plate track. I can't add anything that hasn't already been said or that I haven't said anyway. But I guess let's go down the grid. Justin Haley, top 5 potential. Could be there. Rather go, if I'm looking at people in the front, rather go other places. Michael Annett, I would trust him to finish well. Ryan Sieg will probably get wrecked. Chase Briscoe has a good chance of finishing top 7. Noah Gragson, same story. Brandon Jones, 50-50 on finishing the race. Austin Cindric should finish top 10 unless he wrecks again like he did in 2018. But he should be all right. Jeb Burton, little doubt. Think if there's going to be a Junior Motorsports car that causes an incident or wrecks, it should be him. Chastain, surprisingly well at Daytona. Very poor at Dega. I'm not sure if that's him. I'm not sure if that's the situation he's in. I would lean towards Ross Chastain not finishing the race. Anthony Alfredo should be okay. Harrison Burton should be all right. Justin Allgaier should be all right. Jeffrey Earnhardt, top 10 potential if he's in the right place at the right time. He's probably going to be mid-pack the entire race. Take that for what you will. Robbie Lyons, I assume Robbie is going to drop to the rear at the start of the race. He just has to make it through the first stage or the first part. I know how Robbie races. He should be very cautious. That's the only reason I would play Robbie, and I feel all right playing him because I feel like he's going to approach it in a cautious manner and be okay. Brandon Brown should finish all right. He's finished 7th at Daytona the last 2 races there, and then 15th at Dega last year. Should be okay. BJ McLeod, I just don't like him this week. Cesar Basurilla should run the whole race. Just he needs a lot to go his way to do well. Jesse Little should be okay. Starting 18th ain't gonna kill you. Should finish where he starts. Jeremy Clements most likely will be in a wreck. Brett Moffitt, he just has to avoid people messing up. He should have a top 10 car. Greg Alding, I have no idea. No clue. Riley Herbst should wreck. Joe Graff Jr. should wreck. Josh Williams should wreck. Mike Harmon should survive. Take that for what you will. Vanderwall, most likely going to wreck. Alex LeBay should survive. Vinnie Miller should survive. Joni Machek should survive. Chad Fitchum should survive. Matt Snyder, I would much rather go Jeff Green. Matt Snyder has a top 10 car. He just has to avoid the issues. Tommy Joe Martins, he just needs something to go his way. I imagine he'll be conservative because he's already torn up 15 cars this year. He's already destroyed at least 8 motors. You do not want to go to Talladega and just wreck a new car. So Tommy Joe Martin should just ride in the back the entire race. Timmy Hill should finish top 20. AJ Allmendinger should finish top 7 if he isn't involved in a wreck. Mason Massey should ride in the back and be safe. Jeff Green should finish top 10. I have him projected for a top 10. I think he's going to ride in the back, be there at the end, do all right. I trust him 100%. Matt Mills should finish top 20. If things go his way, should do all right. John Jackson, his worst finish has been 32nd at Dega in 2016, at Daytona in 2015. Let me look right fast. Let me just check him. And then Colin Garrett should finish top 20. I can't imagine they're going to show up and race aggressive and try and wreck the field or anything like that, so I'm fine with him. Let me just look at Josh Jackson real fast. I think he's in the 66 car that's unsponsored. Let me look. Let's see. No mention at all. Good gravy. Let me look at Carl Long. Carl Long here. Let's see. Nothing. He should be in an unsponsored 66 car, but he'll ride in the back and be all right. And that's about it. I just, I think I've talked about everybody. And if I ramble into any more detail, it'll just be me going crazy into all my different lineups and strategies that I would take in. But yeah, a vast majority of my lineups will have people starting probably 25th on back. Probably Harmon back will probably be the core of my lineups, and then just peppering everybody starting 24th on forward. That's just how it's going to be. Yeah, I think that's how it's going to be. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, shoot them my way on Twitter, BrandonCruzDFS. And best of luck, guys. Good luck. Have fun, and we will talk next time.